Hi everyone and welcome back to the multiverse of 100 plus data science project series. In this video, you're going to be creating here an medical imaging diagnosis agents using Python and the large language model. So without wasting your time, let us start our tutorial right now. First, let's have a look about the data flow summary. So you're going to be creating here an medical imaging diagnosis agents. So that's when you need to upload here an image. So you can see user upload an image, and after that you also validate the file type. So user can upload the .png file or .jpeg file or .jpg files. Okay, so you need to validate the file type, it is the correct file type or not. And after that, you need to convert it to the base 64. Now, why this base 64 actually? Because our large language model is taking here the image file in the form of base 64 in the case of URL, right? So you need to converting the image into base 64, I mean 64 bit. And after that, you're going to attach to medical prompt. You need to give it here one medical prompt. So which is basically attached in our applications. Okay. And after that, you're going to send to the Grok large language model API that you can see the Grok, the large language model API, and it is collected from the Grok cloud. Okay. The Grok cloud. So we're going to using here the Llama 4, which is the latest model Llama 4 by Meta. And after that, we are going to generating here some of the response. Okay, so let's say LLM generate analysis that you can see. So from based on this image, I mean the user uploaded, we simply it basically generates some of the analysis. Okay, that you can see LLMs is generating some of the analysis. And after that, you're going to convert this into markdown. Now why markdown? Because you're going to creating here and Flux applications. So in case of the Flux applications, you need to convert them into the markdown so that you can show it to the HTML template. We can show it to the HTML templates. And see, simple, super simple. User just upload an image, it will validate the file types, it will convert to the base 64, it is attached to the medical prompt, it attached here a medical prompt so that our large language model can think. And then you're going to send to the prompt to the Grok large language model API, and our large language model is basically generating here some analysis report. And after that, it have converted the markdown, that is the markdown and the HTMLs. And after that, you simply going to display the result, and as well as you save it. So this is nothing but for the raw things. And after that, what I can do is simply going to convert it into one Flux applications. Now let's see what are the module and the purpose of the module of use in these applications. Okay, so let's see. So you have the module that you can see OS. The first module is called the OS, also stand for the operating system. So you can say the operating system. So using this module, it's provides some functions to work with the operating systems, such as you can creating the directory, you can create the directories like using os.makedirs, and you can building the file path, let's say os.path.joins. You can create multiple things. You can create the folders, you can also building the file paths. Okay, so that's why you're actually using these OS modules. And then you have the base 64 that you can see, base 64. It's basically for encode the uploaded medical images into base 64 string. So it can be embedded directly into the API request to the Grok LLM. Because the LLM that you are going to use it in the case of the image, okay, it will basically process this image in the form of base 64. Okay. So that's when you encode the uploaded medical image into the base 64 string, so it can embed it directly into the API. So you can see API, the Grok API request to the Grok large language models. Now, after that, we are going to using here an framework called the Flux. So it is starting with the web framework, but it's used to create the applications handled, or the HTTP request, and also the render the HTML templates. See, using Flux, we basically creating here some kind of API. Okay, so here we have some routes, as well as we can also render here some HTML templates. So it's nothing but a web framework used to create the applications that you can see, and also handle the HTTP request. If you wanted to get any kind of HTTP request, you need to handle it. You can easily handle it using these Flux modules. And after this, webjerk.utils.secure, or you can say the file names. Okay, secure file names. So it's basically for sanitize the uploaded file names to prevent directory traversal or unsafe character in file path. So it's basically sanitize the uploaded file. Let's say you are uploading here an image, and it will sanitize this uploaded file and names to prevent directory. It have some names so that it can prevent the directory traversals, or it will help you to unsave the characters in the file path. It has some unsigned information, it will just going to characterize it in the case of file path. And the main important one, that's called the grok. You can say grok, the large language model itself. So it's nothing but a Python client for interacting with the grok API to send the prompt and image to the chose the large language models. Okay, so it's nothing but one Python client that actually help you to interact with the grok API that you're going to use it. So you're going to be using here these modules. And after that, you have the markdown, that you can see markdown. So this markdown is basically for converting the model's markdown format response into HTML for displaying into the browsers, so that it can easily display it in the browsers in the case of Flux. Okay. Now the last one, that's called the markup shape markup. It's basically mark the HTML output as shape, so Flux and Jinja 2 will render it easily without escaping the HTML tag. So it's basically for the safety purposes. Okay. So this is nothing but all the module that is needed in order to building these applications, as well as this is nothing but our data flow summary, that how our application is going to flow. Okay. Now let's see our applications. So this is the applications. I write down the code on here, so I can easily close this setting. It's not needed. So we can go on the code. Okay. So this is the code that you can see, app.py file and task.py file, and as well as the index.html. Okay, we don't need it right now. First, let's see the raw code, and after that, you're going to implement it in the Flux applications. I know that my face is looks so dull because the last 8 days I'm totally sick. Okay. Okay. So first, you're going to import the OS, then base64, the markdowns, the markup shape, and the grok itself. So you have to give it here your grok API key on here, and then you're going to give it here the image path, and then the allowed extensions. Extension, it can be the PNG, it can be JPG, it can be JPEG, or it can decom. So first, let's try to see how can you access the grok API key. So well, this is the grok cloud that you can see. This is the interface, how it look like. You can go on the API key sections, and then you can create in here an API key. Let's create an API key, and then you have to give it here a name. Let's say Gen AI. Okay, like that. Let's you can say that Gen AI. Okay, it will verifying that. Then after that, it will give you an API key, and you can easily use it to your applications. Okay, so we can also see some of the model names from here. You can click on submit. Now it will give you an API key. It's generating, taking time because I'm using here the mobile data. Because sometime electricity is gone. That's why that's a problem actually. Okay, let's copy this out, and then let's go on the docs, and then you can see the models. So you can see those are the various models actually available in here that you can see. You can use any of them. Okay. Now let's go on the code, and then I'm going to pass it here in the later on. You can also creating here an .env file, and you can store here your secret key. Okay, not needed at all because it's free, and I'm just going to actually delete it after making this video. Okay, I'll do it later on. And after that, you can see this is nothing but our medical prompts query. Okay, so medical query. So you are a highly skilled medical imaging expert with extensive knowledge in radiology and diagnostic imaging. Analyze the patient's, you can say analyze the patient's medical image and structure your response as follow. Okay. So the first one is image type and the regions. So specify the image modality, X-ray, MRI, CT scan, ultrasound. You can give any kind of image on here, okay, based on those classes. Then identify the patient's or anatomical regions and positionings, where the problem is actually. Comment on image quality and the technical adequacy, and you can see key finding, the list primary observations semantically, the note any abnormalities. Okay, so you can see describe the location, size, shape, and characteristics, as well as you can see normal, the mid or moderate or sharp, this kind of key information it can give. Okay, and the diagnosis assessment and the patient friendly explanations, so that patient can easily understand the thing easily, because in some of the cases patient are not unable to actually understand this thing clearly, that is given by the doctors. So it will give you one patient friendly explanations, as well as it will give some the research context. It actually using the DuckDuckGo search tools, or find some recent medical literature about the similar cases. It has the similar cases, it's available on the internet. It will try to find it from here, or search for a standard treatment protocol. So you can see the if it needed any kind of standard the treatment protocol, it will give you, as well as it provide a list of relevant medical links to them. So it will give you some medical links, and research any relevant technology advance. If you have any kind of papers or researching area, you can research on that, and include 2 to 3 key reference to support your analysis. Okay, and format your response using clear markdown header and the bullet point that you can see on here. Okay, super simple, not so fancy. So I'm simply going to patch it here, my API key on here. And after that, you can see we're creating here three functions. One is for the allowed file, I mean, which file is allowed or which file is not. So you give it here the extension, allowed file extension, which is nothing but the JPEG and the PNG, JPEG, and the DCOM. This is my extension files. And then you also creating here a function for encoding here the images, because you need to encode the image into base 64. So you're taking here an image path and then you open it with opened the image path or b as image file, and then returning here this base 64, and base 64 encode, and you pass here image file dot read and decode it to the UTF-8. Now creating here a function called analyze image, which is taking here an image path and the Grok API itself. So if it is not available, I mean not allowed, so in inbuilt file type allowed type is equal to PNG, JPG, JPEG, and DCOM. If you give it here T file, so it is not going to take it. Okay. And then after that, you're calling here the functions called encode image. So it will give you here one base 64 image format. And then you can simply going to pass it to the chat completions. So client dot chat completions dot create. So this client is basically coming from here. From Grok, we import the Grok, and you can see that we're actually creating here and client. So here you go. You can see client. Okay. And the chat completion is going to client dot chat completion dot create, and you have the message. So role is users and content and text and a medical query. That's one medical query that you have is that created. And after that, we simply going to give it a type as the image URL, and then give it your image URL in the frame of base 64. So data image, okay, image JPEG base 64 base 64 image, and you can see meta llama 4 scout 70 million 6e and instruct. This is the model that you can give it here. Okay. And after that, you give it here chat completion equal to choice. I mean, to take in the first choice and give it to the content itself. Then you simply can return it in the form of markdown. You can see markdown. So markdown and give it here markdown results, and extension is fence code and tables. And return here the markdown template result and the HTML template itself. So you're calling here the function analyze the images, which one give it here markdown text and the HTML text itself. Okay. And if it have any kind of extensions, I mean exceptions, so it will try to give it the wrong results. Okay. Now it also change here this one to the Python 3.12. Okay, let's selecting here my Python version 3.12. And now it's set up. And now you can simply go on here and you can run the Python file on here. Okay. So you go on here and you can see this is the medical imaging diagnosis. Okay. Sorry. So obviously to give me some result and taking time, because it will accessing the API key sections. I mean, data from it will try to give it here. Okay. I forget to show you the images. So this is the image that you can see. I just take it from the Google. You can see this is an brain tumor images. So here you can see an brain tumor itself. So we got the results. I hope so. So you can see this is nothing but in the form of tag, HTML tag. It will give it here so that you don't need to worry about these things. You don't need to write much more amount of code in cases. That's why you're actually using this one. So you can see the DuckDuckGo search, the diagnosis assessment. You can see this one, tumors, and size is approximately 6 meter in diameter. You can see that. Okay, we got the result. That's cool. Now let's see in the case of applications. So this is our app.py file that you can see. So what I can do first, let's see what you're actually doing. So we import here the OS, we import the base 64, you also import here the flux, and import here the run template and request. And the secure file name so that you can secure it in the file names. Okay. And then you have the Grok, the markdown save, and upload folder is the upload folder. Here you can see the upload folder is empty today right now. And then you have the route extension is nothing but PNG, JPEG, and the DCOMs. And then we're creating here an app, and after that we configure here our upload folder. It's better you can run it out and you can see the interface how it look like from this template folder actually. And then we taking the same functions from our test.py file. Okay, it is running. Now you can click here to follow the link. So it will, you can see this is how it look like. You have to give it here your Grok API key, and then into choosing here an images. Okay, this is the UI how it actually basically look like. Okay, so and after that you can see the medical query itself. So you can delete it. It not needed at all. And then we have the encode images, and we creating here a route. Now this is the main thing. Okay, so if I see this one indexed HTML, which one is nothing but an HTML code. It's nothing but uh, the basically the CSS it actually using here is called the tailwind CSS. So it having one header and it having an grok API key sections, it having an upload buttons. Okay, so you can see it have a body, and inside the body you have the from tag, as well as you have the heading tag, which one is called medical imaging diagnosis agents. And then you can see the grok API key, which is taking here in the from of input. You can see grok API key, and name is grok API key, as well as it have the labels for uploading the file. You can see input equal type is the file, and name is image, and it accepting here this file. Okay, so it also have a name called images, also have a button. You can see button, submit button. And now you can see the Ginger template. If it have any kind of error, it will show this error on here. And if the result is coming in the frame of HTML, it will try to show the HTML. The whole total HTML is coming from this app.py file. We don't need to provide it, or we don't need to provide it on here. Simple, super simple. Now let's see creating here three variables. One is for the result HTML, which is directly coming from our large language model, and the error itself, which kind of error it may got. Then the grok API key, so it is right now empty. And now requested method is equal to post method. If I go inside this index.html, you can see the method is post itself. And now you can see that if the request.method is equal to post, then you're taking here the grok API key. Now you can see the grok API key having one name. So this is not needed at all. Yep, we can take it right now. So you can see that the grok API key. So grok API key, it's basically a name that we mentioned in our index.html that you can see in the index.html. How is it? You can see this name is grok API key. Okay. So then you can see if the not the grok API key, it give you the error that grok API is required. Okay. You can test it out. You can run Python file and you can easily testing this out. So if the image is not found, then no image file actually found on here. Okay, you can go on, you can follow the link. Let's say I'm not going to give it here anything else. So you can see that please fill out the field. Okay, so let's say I give it here and wrong grok API key like that, and I also chose a file. Let's say I'm going to choosing this file image.jpg, and I click on analyze. Now I can analyze these applications. Now you can see error during analyze invalid API key, that you can see it will show the errors. Okay, cool. Now, now what I can do, we can check that if the image file is provided or not. Now let's say I give it here and write API key, but not give it here the images itself. Okay, so I'm going to copy this out, and then I'm going to pass it to here. Let's say I give it here and valid API key, but not give it here the medical image. And you can see, please choose a file. Okay, you can say, please choose the files. Okay, so again, it also try to checking this one that if the image file is correct or not. And after that, what it can do, it will just taking here the files. You can see files are requested files is equal to image itself. So which one is nothing but coming from here. You have a file name. So you can see file name is basically image itself. And then after that, it will show if the file name is actually error. Then you can see no file is selected, and it is returning here in the from up in the index.html. Okay, so it will just returning here the result HTMLs and the errors and the grok API key. Now, if the file and the allowed file name is available, we simply going to make it make the file name secure, and then using his os.path.join, and we config here our upload folders so that it can upload here the file inside this directory, because we have our upload folder. So inside this upload folder, it will storing here this image that you can see it is storing here these images. Okay, now this images is coming on here. Okay, so you can delete it, you can delete it, so delete it. Okay, and after that we convert that into the base and encode the images, and we pass into our large language model, and then it give it here chat completions and the markdown itself, and otherwise the error, and otherwise allowed image types are png, jpg, or dcom. If you give it here a wrong image file type, it will obviously give me the errors. And then after that, we render the template index.html. We also passing here our result.html, the error, and the grok API key itself, because it's needed on here. Okay, now if it is error, it will show the errors. If you don't have any error, it will show this on here. Okay, now we can simply going to run the application again and try to see it the last time. Okay, let's click on run Python file. Now we can have this one. Okay, So लैपटॉप भी थोड़ा स्लो चल रहा है. Okay, so click on follow link. Now let's give it the grok API key. Now let's choose the images. So let's choose these images and now click on analyze image. Okay, so you can give it here any kind of images from the x-ray, the CT scan, you can give it to here. Okay, so you can see image type and regions. You can see how it look like. Primary observations, the primary diagnosis, confidence levels, different diagnosis. You can see metastasis, this one, this one, this one, and metacrite as well. Research content using DuckDuckGo search. Recent literature suggests this. You can see, you can read about it, and also give it here some kind of reference that is taken from here. As well as it give you some kind of links. American Brain Tumor Associations, the National Cancer Institutions, the Radiology Society of North America. Okay, so how cool it will give you the response. You can see the mass is right frontal and 4 centimeter in diameter. It will try to localize the shape of that. Okay, so you can also using here the vision model as well, to get some more accurate results. Okay, this is not so bad at all. It's also good that you can see. So that's it for today now. I hope you enjoy this full tutorial and make sure to subscribe to the channel and share with your friends. So I'll be back with the tutorial. So till then, take care and bye bye.